It is 7:25, August 8th, 2016. Floresville County Road Partners reconvenes out of executive session. Moving to item number 11 on the agenda, discussion and possible action item. Floresville FEDC attorney will present and discuss with city FEDC development agreement that needs to be approved by the board in this meeting in order to follow the board process timeline presented at the July 13th, 2016 FEDC board meeting. Clarissa will advise the board about upcoming actions to be taken to follow the bond process timeline.
I just want to introduce Leslie Kassan, our bond counsel, so she can kind of update everybody about the timeline of the agreement and the process that's going to take place for issuing bonds.
Leslie Kassan Ortiz Law Firm. As Clarissa mentioned, we brought to the board a timeline for the bond issuance with the timeline in mind of issuing bonds in late November. I did have a discussion with your bond attorney a couple weeks ago, Jeff Kuhn. He mentioned the possibility of the city wanting to issue additional debt before the end of the calendar year. And if that's the case, that kind of limits our ability to issue bonds for this particular project if the city wants to remain a small issuer under the $10 million limit. So it was my understanding from him, and city manager, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was my understanding from him that the city was considering possibly issuing debt, and the EDC's issuance would put you over the $10 million limit. So his discussion with me was perhaps the EDC could push the issuance or the sale of the proposed $1.4 million until after this calendar year. So the sale of the EDC's bonds would be in January of 2017, which would keep the city under the $10 million tax exempt limit. That was my discussion with him. If something's changed, I'll be happy to have a discussion with him about that. But my understanding from him was that the recommendation would be for us to push our bond sale until after January 1st. I don't know if you have any.
Well, what Mr. Kuhn was saying was actually for you to receive the funds. So they couldn't receive the funds until after January 1. You could go out and do your bond and try to stay as close to your time frame as possible, just not receive the funds in 2016. You could receive them like January 2nd of 2017.
Right, so the receipt of the funds.
So they could, because some of the selling could happen in November, December, just not actually receive the funds in 2017.
Okay, but she's saying something else. She's saying the sale of the bond would be after 2017.
That was my understanding from him. I'll clarify with him once we have a discussion, but that was my.
Actually, because he said that the 2017 bonds, and Chris, help me out, the 2017 bonds, when they receive the money, is when you receive the money is when it counts. If they receive the money January 2nd of 2017, then it's no conflict at all.
Right, we can still move forward with all the documentation, all the resolutions, the bond order, everything that needs to be passed. All that can keep moving. That process keeps moving, but, right, the proceeds, the sale.
Receiving the funds, actually.
The sale of the proceeds.
I think so. Probably what needs to happen is Lizzie needs to just have another discussion with Mr. Kuhn about the timing of, and because I thought it was that even the sale had to happen
Because we
after
don't,
the first of the year too.
the city won't get the money from the purchaser until the date of closing. So, I mean, we can price it on this year, before the end of the year, but the actual closing of our bond proceeds wouldn't be until the 2nd or the 3rd
Of 2017.
2017.
But you can sell it in 2016.
You can price and have everything in place, but the actual closing would not happen until 2017 when the money's wired from the bond purchaser to the EDC.
So then there's no delay.
There's no delay other than you're not going to have those wired funds
Yeah.
in
But the
2016.
effective date will be the date you receive the funds, not the day you sell them.
The bonds,
Effective date, yeah.
the closing of the bonds and the funds received will be in 2017.
Okay, we need some.
Even though you
certainty
sold
as well
one,
about the
No, you're not selling.
information.
You can't
Of that information.
Not
So
until
if you
next
need to, we can delay
month.
our tax.
Yeah, you can delay yours though
Yeah.
versus us.
The magic number is 10.
Right.
The magic number is 10. And so when you do 10 million this year or 10 million next year, 2017, the magic number is 2017. When you wanted to go out for tax notes, the bond council, when you came, Mr. King, Victor, and Mr. Kuhn came, they said it's a matter of timing.
Right, that's how they explained it to us.
Just a matter of timing. We're gonna be closing on our USDA, which takes care of our first tax note, and we're gonna receive a large amount going back to receive some of that. But because it's so high, it's because we're getting $7 million in wastewater money from the USDA, and that is considered a loan. Okay, so nobody would have more money, but it just, both of us can't close in the same fiscal year. But it's so close, a matter of, I think he said a difference of 30 days, 30 to 45 days. We're
Yeah,
talking-
that's what we're looking at.
Rather than receiving the money December 17th, they can receive the money on January 2nd, and they can still have their public hearings. It doesn't change anything going forward. It doesn't matter when you receive the funding. Is that correct?
Right, the date of the closing of the bonds, when the funds are transferred, that's the date.
Yeah, that's does anyone else, do you all have more questions for Leslie?
Well, at what point does the FEDC take a vote?
So the process is that, once the agreement is, we come to an agreement, it's a two-step process. Under the statute, the FEDC has to pass a resolution for purposes of approving the project. And so we talked about that, the goal, and with Mr. Hug as well, Leslie and I, to get it on September, the first meeting of September, to approve the project. The vote on the bond will be,
Well, we have to wait for that initial 60-day window to
right,
clear out. So we're looking at any time after the,
So the time-
go
the goal
September
is-
18th, I believe.
right, so the goal is to get it to us, our board, with the agreement in place and a resolution that has to be passed to approve the project at the first meeting of September. That will then go to city council after that.
And I think what Councilman Tejada was asking is kind of like what we briefly discussed, is really what we need to move forward here is a decision on how this is going to go out to bid from the city side, regardless of if we have the 1.4 million from the FEDC or if we use the $1 million from the tax note. We need to know how are we going with the FEDC's stance on sealed bids versus the city's desire to open it up. I think that's what Councilman Tejada is asking, is there any decision on that specific issue by the FEDC on there related to the agreement? Because the fine terms of the agreement and the actual going out to the bond council and everything like that, that can go through September. But the issue with, we've got a tax note coming up on Thursday's agenda, and so if we know kind of how we can proceed with starting to look at the use of those funds, that's what they're looking for from the FEDC.
What we were reading in here, and what you explained to me a while ago, was that it said either or, but that point it falls on the council to decide which way to go. Is that correct, Chris?
Well, that's what's the changes that I put in there. Now, the contract itself hasn't been approved by either board, but the changes that I put in there would be either sealed bids or by board, depending, because the council will actually be the ones that enter into the contract with the builder, supervise construction, everything of that nature. But we as the city and the council's representatives there need to know, if the bond comes in from y'all and the bond agreement that's finally passed is limited to just sealed bids, and we've already taken our tax note money and said, we're gonna go with a by board process, then that leaves us at odds when that comes through.
Well, at some point, we've got to stop passing this around and get it signed.
And that's kind of what the goal was here, and I know I guess there was some miscommunication on the joint nature of tonight's meeting, but.
Because some of us were under the understanding this was going to be ready. I mean, where yeah or nay, it was going to be completed, but it's not completed.
Correct. And that's up to the representative bodies to review and pass. So that's my changes to the document that was sent over. And so that's what I presented to council at our presentation and discussion at the last city council meeting. So then it's on FEDC to decide, what to do with those changes on that.
What point are we talking about? Parking?
Yeah, I'm not sure what y'all have in your agenda,
The
but probably
first item
this
on
is the right
agenda-
time.
The first item is discussing the
Agreement.
the agreement.
Is there a way to discuss some of Heartland and some of the
And then go
ideas
back
of
to that.
pricing you've gotten back? Because we have pricing that we've seen from M&S, and that would give some of the members a opportunity to compare.
And we do have our second CNA item is to discuss some of the proposed bids that Heartland has submitted. And so if y'all want to, I guess, recess or sit and listen to our discussion item, you could do that. But that's up for y'all to decide how you want to proceed on that.
So that they would have an idea what the numbers are.
Wouldn't it be doing it backwards though? Because what we really need is the agreement for everyone to be familiar with that agreement. I mean, wouldn't it?
I think kind of what, to make an informed decision for the whole board, if we heard everything, the data from there, then we can go back, make a decision, and then we decide on that and/or.
Well, are we officially on item 1A? We're still on FEDC's item 11.
Yeah.
Right.
So we can start our session, right? And then start off with 1B versus 1A?
We can recess and y'all can start off and do 1A.
Right, well, it'd be 1B
Yeah.
is the Heartland
Right.
item, but, yeah, and then we can discuss it, go through, and then as, I guess, audience participants, even though you're sitting up, you can ask any questions or anything like that.
It's a joint meeting, isn't it? And can-
Well, ours was posted, like I said, I think there was some miscommunication. Ours was posted as a joint meeting, yours was posted as a regular meeting, and there's no discussion on there about a proposed
So
plan.
we have to get back together again, or recess and then get back again?
That would be your council.
Yeah, no, you can do
advise
that,
on
yeah.
So, do a motion to recess?
Well, hold on, before we do that, we recess, there's still gonna be a quorum here. Violation. Something I misunderstand about that?
That recessing won't be a violation.
No, we're all still here, so that's more than a quorum.
It is a quorum, right, but it's, recessing is not,
I think he's asking if they participate in our meeting, is it considered a quorum since they're all here discussing city business or?
As long as, it's my understanding, and Clarissa can correct me here, and she's the one that gives legal advice to their board, but as your attorney, I'd say if they're recessed and they're in attendance at another entity's public meeting and listening and information there, they can't make any decisions, they can't take a vote, they can't do anything of that nature to approve, but they can listen to as another entity's public posted meeting.
I agree with that.
So we can't reconvene after that?
Yes, you can.
Yeah, if you guys stay on your item 11 and don't close it out and move on, then when you come back from recess, you'd still be in that item.
Item 11.
Everybody clear?
Yeah.
Have a motion by Fred, second by Ryan. All those in favor? Motion passes.
Okay, what I have for you is two different options. You don't have all six options. What I have for you was two different options. I have it done.
Mr. Floyd,
There's one more, Jay.
there's one more.
Is that the same position?
Yes.
Yes, but I'll wait all six.
Can we set for who has to go to the audience? We can stay here? We can stay here.
Tell them what landlord.
Okay, so if you look at the plan, on the top has like a budget, and if you go to the last page, it talks about the money, 2.5 million on both of them. And they hardly have given us a total of 6 plans. The reason why I'm only bringing you 2 of them is because not all 6 have 4 baseball fields. And I know that's really important because we're getting rid of 4, we want to replace 4. There's no sense in bringing you plans that have other things, other than basically what we need. I've had some conversations with Langford, that's the grant person the council has agreed to hire. And bottom line is, we're gonna be applying for the grant in October. September 8th is when we have to have a public hearing on the grant. And one of the things that's gonna happen is that she's telling me that they like to fund the amenities to it. Not necessarily the bricks and mortar, but the amenities. Okay, so that's one of the things we're talking about. So if we do, and according to our park plan, if we do the basics, parking lot, bathroom, baseball fields, and a soccer field, that's the basics, then the grant could come and do some of the amenities. Splash park, covers, playground equipment, awnings, those kind of things. They like to add amenities, a walking path around this area, at least a mile, they like to have that. They would fund those kind of things. So if you can think about the basic plan, and then we can do some of the amenities on top. Okay. So on the plan itself, they have, I don't know if you can read it or not.
What option is that?
I'm looking at, and on the second picture, you have like the black and white one, but sometimes that color didn't come out. Option 2 is the one I have over here. And option 2, option 2, as you see, and sometimes if you look at the second, they have like a, that's all nice with the grass, it's hard to read that one. That's the same plan, okay? So one of the options, they look almost identical, but one has
Playground.
2, the playground, and you see the difference. They're not a lot different, but they do have some differences. And so you can say if you want to have a basketball court, or you want to have one that's kind of like a la carte, you can pick and choose. But what we need to try to do for the $2.5 million, and I think they set aside about $450,000 for lights, because that's important, to have lights. This is what you can get for the $2.5 million.
But the 2.5 includes the basketball court.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you take out, it's a la carte, and he did the pricing, like you said, so that if you say, oh, okay, we're gonna take out the basketball court, you know what that cost is, and I think the price of that
Well, the actual court itself is like less than 20, but to do the cover is like $100.
But if, Mrs. Turner, on this option 2, they state they have 2 full-size soccer fields, but they only have a drawing for 1. Option 2. What was the other option?
The other option 1 actually has 2. Right, maybe they have changed it.
No, that one had 2, but I noticed that the
When
other one.
they cut the paper, they have to change it.
Okay.
So those are the options.
The pricing is only for 1.
Oh,
So they changed the number, they didn't change it.
They didn't change it.
They changed the text,
Yeah.
right. So these are the things that we were sitting around, like I said, and the other options, I mean, I can share them with you, but one of them only had 2 baseball fields, one of them only had 3 baseball fields. That really wasn't fitting the bill for what the minimum standards were. These 2 do have it. You can pick and choose for one of these. As you see, this is very much of a draft of it, of what they've done, and some numbers. So you could, if we pull out the basketball, so we don't really want to have basketball here, then we say we know how much money we have, and we can use it for something else.
So like on here, say you did do the playground, could you not say you're not gonna do the basketball, you could come in here and put a extra parking, and then have access to a Lions Club playground and utilize like a flow between
Yes.
both parks.
And one of the things that, after looking at all 6 of his plans, and I had a conversation with Sean today, one of the designers, was that we really want to open up the 2 parks to have some kind of connectivity between the 2 parks. And if we're gonna do a walking path, that's an easy way to do it. We also want to reserve, practice field that we have existing, one of the baseball fields that we have existing, one of the backstops, to have some backstops to add to that we can pick and choose. But these are things that he said they can do quite quickly, but we want to get these to us so that we can get things started, and of course, where things laid out and some hard numbers on what it will actually cost to have this put out. So that's why I said again.
So like, and just real quick, so if you look at the numbers here, I mean, M&S is proposing $400,000 baseball fields, and these baseball fields are $162,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, 175 for one.
And a league field was 520.
I'm sorry?
A league size field was 520.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, these are a lot, you know.
Reason when we got that number from Fall City, they were 175,000, and you had your engineering fees on top. So you're still sitting about 200,000 in the field. I mean, we're just comparing surrounding areas. So.
Yeah, but these numbers here are a lot more realistic compared to what we received before.
Yes.
Closer to $500,000 for one baseball field.
Yeah.
And if you notice that the bleachers, the bleachers have shade as well, that's really important for us, that bleachers, they have the shade.
So on this one field, they like they have.
No, I was looking at number 5, because it's under budget 20,000.
You know, if we look at towards the back of the price list, there's even side amenities like the prices of benches and picnic tables and trash cans and things like that, that we could ask the community to get involved, and they'll provide us with a list of community support items.
Yeah, that, and then the page before, that park entry and plaza is a little excessive. I mean, Henry and I were talking about the concrete walk around the tree, that's $47,000. And she said that's maybe something we can go for a grant that they would provide, and that's kind of things that they like to do.
Yeah, they like, the grant itself, they like to provide the amenities, the pretty things on the wonderful park. And she said that we were gonna get some points, because you know it's all based on a point system, because we're making a major investment. So you're gonna show them that this is the park that you're making a major investment in, of approximately $2.5 million, that they can add on the niceties. Kind of like, you know, we got the house, they're gonna help us get the curtains and the awnings kind of thing. And so definitely around that 450-year-old tree, we wanna add that amenity, that'd be nice, but we can add that on the grant side. So when I talked to Sean today, I told him what I need to be, what I'm calling base project, nuts and bolts base. Bathrooms, concession stands, bleachers, baseball fields, that is one thing. And then we'll have the amenities what we're gonna have on your plan, you'll see it, but it's really just for the grant when we go for the grant in October. And we'll
Have we looked at lights to see the cost of lights? Or?
The lights, they did a rough estimate on the lights, and I think the lights came in between $400,000, but it's gonna base on your configuration, on the design. And I think they call it the wagon wheel or baseball wheel, whatever. The wagon wheel, because they're all right there together, it's easier for them to light that way. And then of course along the walking path, they like solar, it's nice green friendly. Green is nice, but green is not cheap. And so solar lights along the walking path is really something they like to fund and have funded on other projects. So that's what we're looking to do. So we'll have a plan, it'll be one map, it'll be one plan, but it'll have all the different amenities on it. Covered with very, Texas, I don't know how they do anything outside, we're gonna be sitting outside in nice weather, but all of the bleachers have covers on top of them. And of course, the color selections up to you. I think he said in the presentation he wouldn't recommend maroon or red because it kind of fades in the sun. I love the emerald green, kind of matches our colors, so we can do something like that. Or other colors. So, like I said, there are other plans. I just didn't want to confuse you all because it doesn't have enough fields. We can reserve, or repeat myself, please forgive me, we can reserve one of the fields that we have now for a practice field, or one of the fields that we moved down for football, we can reserve that where it is now, okay? And then we can add on to it. So this will have more practice space, we can count all the numbers, a multi-purpose field so that we can use it for soccer and football. And they won't have to be taking down baseball to set up football. And I think that's very costly to them. I think the gentleman said they pay a lot of money in restriping and redoing some other things. They won't have to do it with this plan. I know it's a lot to take in. They are really itemized on their list, so you can compare the two and see what's there, what's not there. We'll be out next week so that we can fine tune and do some more, but I really want him to incorporate the existing city
So this is
park.
kind of where the nuts and bolts is the thing, but the other stuff, that's when like the advisory committee will come in and say the colors or
Yeah.
maybe one field versus two fields, because those advisory committees make those. So it's not gonna come down to city council or you, the city manager, but it's gonna have the community involvement in it.
Yes.
Through that advisory board.
No, I don't want to, this is definitely a community park. We want
Just
to,
clarifying it.
we want to invite the other entities. Now, we've talked for a long time, and Chris has prepared for the football and the soccer league, and all the leagues to have, they're going to sign on to agree. Because one of the things they've learned, that we learned during the park part, is that maintenance is an issue. Okay, and so I'm saying that what we need to do when we negotiate with them on a contract, as part of their funds or whatever, is not to say go to the city, it's to go to maintain these fields. And so whatever contributions or whatever cost or whatever responsibility we give is definitely going to be to them to do. So So that's part of it. So the football, getting this wonderful, nice football field, then they have to help us maintain it, and that's what they really will do. But also, it's gonna say that they're gonna use the field between this time and that time, and so when the field's available, other people can use it. Something similar to what they're doing with the open house now that they're having at the events, and want the whole community to feel a part of this.
And I was just gonna add on to what Henry was saying, like, the issue that we got into when the football team came up and presented about why they need to have admissions to see their games and things like that. This will give them a defined time when they'll have sole access to the field, and then they can do what's necessary there. But at all other times, it's a public park and anybody's able to use it.
And that agreement will help us put that in place and say, when their season ends, I don't think football season changes a whole lot. I mean, it's usually a block of time that we can say, but also we don't want anybody putting somebody out, if I wanna go show Jimmy how to throw a ball or toss a football, that somebody's saying, oh, you can't play on those fields. That's Little League's fields. They're technically not, they're a public park. And so we want to have that understanding in writing so everybody's there, but also these fields are gonna be expensive to maintain. We don't wanna build something we can't, so part of the partnership with them is to help us pay for the maintenance of those fields. I think that's gonna be key.
Are these firm numbers, or is this an estimate? I see the word estimate in the document.
So the difference between going out to bid and those are estimate numbers. These are numbers that they, because we haven't had a conversation with them. This has been one way they're saying, Henrietta, yes, I need to say, do I want level 1 cover or level 2 cover? So they took an average cover, but these are the costs. These are not big costs because they can say this will fluctuate. This is what they do, this is what they will put in, because they are the contractor. Heartland, did I say it right? I just want to call them something else.
I didn't notice in here, I may have missed it, the restroom and concession facilities, where are those listed?
Well, it's actually listed in the, you can see the concessions in the middle of it, and there are concessions in here. Now, they have a standard,
I see it there.
Page 5.
Page 5.
Right in the middle of the close.
baseball, softball field, concession, and restrooms. So they give you,
Concession, they even got allowance for concession equipment.
and the plumbing and the rough and interior finishes. I do believe later on, you'll see some HVAC, that's for the bathrooms.
Next page.
The HVAC and bathroom vents, so those bathrooms are everything. So, it's really gonna be important, because it gets really hot, but, everything said something, we need to work about bathrooms, we're gonna like the hot bathrooms. So these will have air conditioned HVAC, the electrical is actually listed in there. He said they have because what they do, and this is all that they do, they have like standard concession stands, so you can have this one, or you can have middle grade or the upgrade, and so I'm not going to the high.
You told them stainless steel, right? Because Doug likes that stainless steel.
Yeah, so the
You know,
partition,
break them with the rock.
the paper towel, the towel dispensers, it comes ready to go. They even took care of things such as RPZ valve for the drinking fountain, as you see, the hot water tank, they're pretty detailed.
Price of the bases and
So when we fine tune the plan, they won't be estimated, because you'll tell them if you want the stainless steel toilets, or if you want the other kind of toilets, that'll be the difference, but they know what the cost is to install them because they install them. It's not up for question whatever the contractors want. So there it is.
And that's legally, when they bid in the state of Texas, they have, this is the amount for X, this is the amount for Y, this is the amount for Z. And so it is a unit pricing, and that's part of the 3-year contract that they're awarded to the state of Texas.
But it's important that before we get to that design phase, we start talking about the agreement between both entities.
Yes. So I just wanted to show the council at FEDC, the progress that we made and the time that we had. And again, they did send me, for the record, 6 different plans. I only brought you the 2 that actually had the 4. Because they did do scenarios about what they could do if it was only 1.4. Well, only 1.4 didn't give me 4 fields. And the council stepped up to the plate and said that they would help the millions, so we need to have those 4 fields. So in order to do 4 fields and some basic parking lot and fields, you need $2.5 million. Is what we need. But it'll help us do that, and then the nice thing you can apply. But the nice thing about it, if we don't get the grant this year, the fields are still there, the parking lot's still there, the bathroom's still there. We can always go back again for the following year and apply again to see if they'll give us some of those amenities going forward.
Henry, I asked you earlier, I know they have this priced out for the events, and like they have a basketball court, but you said maybe that basketball court would be better suited, you know, if we could fit it down here at the downtown or at the skate park. I mean, is that something we can use, since we can use these numbers and say, hey, we don't want this basketball court here, but we want it over here, you know, at this location?
Yes, and that's a nice thing. I mean, one of the things that they have on there is an amphitheater. And so on one of the plans, I think the amphitheater could put it, and say yes, because it's unit prices, it doesn't matter to them where you put it. They say you can go here.
Like the splash pad, you can put that by the skate park and have it.
Yeah, the splash pad at
Yeah,
Beacon Park.
and that's-
Because of the $1 million that we approved, it was for park improvements, so it wasn't just necessarily for this project itself behind the events, it was for park improvements. So if it's improving the Beacon Park, or it's improving the skate park,
It's for
or it's
park.
improving Lodi Park, it's improving a park within the city. So it doesn't entitle us to put all the money in this project.
That makes it a lot better.
So how does this go with the sewer? It says it doesn't have the sewer line and all that, that's not included?
Well, there's a sewer line there. They don't
Okay.
do sewer. There's a
Okay.
sewer line there, and the city has already contracted M&S to connect the water and sewer lines. But there is a sewer line there. They just have to connect to it, but they don't make the connection also with the water. So I thought they're just focusing on the park. The infrastructure itself is something the city would undertake, depending on what they need. But it's enough water for us to get it there. We've already passed the task order to get the water from the community center and keep going back. So that would be something separate. But he really was detailed to put it in there saying, it doesn't include this, so everybody would know.
I think that the FEDC is very much in favor of doing the parks. I don't think that's an issue. My question is real simple. Is Heartland the only people that do it?
Through the buy board plan, yes, and the only certified company, is that correct, Chris?
Correct. They're the ones that this buy board process is kind of, what you do is the state of Texas basically goes out for bids. And they say, for our communities and people like that engage in this, what is the best cost that we can get for them? And so only one company is awarded to do this through the buy boards with the state. And so Heartland is the one that was awarded for this 3-year contract, which I think is up in 2018. They're the ones that were awarded for the previous one, and I think even the one before that. So they've been awarded pretty consistently. But as far as using this process, yes, they are the only one that's on.
So it's not like buying a desk or cars or whatever, there's just one supplier.
That has passed the bidding process for the state. So it would be the same thing as buying desks for City Hall. If we wanted to use a buy board and not go out to bid for them, we'd use this supplier.
Yeah, and the unique thing we talked about with the playground, please forgive me, I didn't step to the mic before. One of the unique things about the playground equipment is that if you go out to a contractor and has to buy it, and he's gonna buy most of his equipment from Heartland, there's an upcharge to that that's passed on to the buyer. We're buying direct, so we're getting wholesale because they manufacture and make the lion's share of the park equipment that they use in the great state of Texas. And so there's no additional add-on cost, which is why it's really hard to be competitive with them. We had someone come in, remember we had the gentleman come in? We had Game Time to come in, and he talked about just doing equipment for, I think we looked up a con park, and he came up with $117,000 to do that, and to install it. Well, this is what Heartland does. They manufacture it, install it, they insure it, they do risk management for it. So all those things are taken care of, and we can be able to do. And we can, and the nice thing about it, you can flip and choose. I feel the Lions Club is thinking about upgrading the playground equipment there at the park. We can say, rather than do it here, we can put that equipment there, or add the shed, and then they add the part for the covering. It can be a collaborative effort between the two. We don't have to necessarily take down the equipment, we can just add to it. So it's really exciting that we can be able to do that, and I think the turnaround time is quite quickly. So I said to Sean, what's his last name? I keep calling him Sean. Spencer, okay. Sean Spencer, Mike Spencer, the other gentleman. I said to Sean Spencer that we're gonna be meeting next week since I've had a chance, and I was hoping for any feedback that you all could give me, that we can come up with something that we're ready to come out and say, here are 2 plans, and then let's move it around and see what we can do so that we can get ready, because I need to have the plan done for October 1, and then we can have the public hearing for September 8th, because we have to have a public hearing in order to apply. In the interim, I want to have my secret spies out there, so I want to share a plan that you are halfway happy with. with the football as well as the baseball so that they can have a comment. And they're really kind of nervous. They're thinking that this is really not going to happen. So I keep telling them it's going to happen. It's a matter of time. We're so close to the finish line. So we're hoping that we can get their feedback in as well. Do you have any other questions of me, Mayor? Council?
No, it's very informative information.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I just want to add something that there's this heartland and there's this luck. There's times that cities are defunct because they go to cheaper bidders. So there's some towns that have shortages and can't complete projects, and with this heartland, they are bonded, they are state approved.
Yes.
We know that it's gonna happen. I mean,
And,
do we want to take that route?
well, the thing I'm really excited about, between Heartland and Langford, they both have received funding from the Texas Wildlife Association, Parks and Wildlife. Okay. So they both received funding from them. By the way, on a side note, we did send up our plan and they don't have any comments on it. The plan is good to go. They all know Mr. Luck. They know what he's doing, so the plan is fine. So you're right, with a solid plan,
It's a solid.
and they actually apply for grants too, so they're really gonna be an attribute to help us get all the funding, and they know what they're looking for. I mean, when I talked to Sean today, he said they want a path that's at least a mile, a walking path, they'll fund at least a mile. And on our last project that they did, had the solar lights on it, and he said they already have that design, so they don't have to reinvent the wheel, it's just kind of like, they know all the specs, it's just how much linear feet, and we can get a mile. The more, at least a mile, any more, they fund more. So they're familiar with that system as well, so it's a twofer for us. Thank you.
Thank you. So,
And Mayor, this is set up as a CNA, but we're not selecting a plan, we're not selecting a contractor. We still don't have a contract with Heartland. This is just presentation material to review as what they can offer as a by-board company. So
So with that said, I'll make a motion that we take no action or table item B regarding the Heartland Park Plan.
and a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Do we have citizens' comments?
Yes, ma'am. Doug Jones with the Parks Foundation. My only question is, Henrietta, when you said you're going to start bringing water, if you don't have a plan, how are you going to know how you're going to lay out your irrigation for your ball fields?
Well, MLS is definitely familiar with this site. And so we're gonna bring it to the edge of the site, and then they can tap it off from there. We just need to get the water there, and then we can tap it off and take it there. So we should have where the water actually gonna end up, and more definite plan, probably October, November, it'll be in. So they just have to get it there so that they can tap off. So they'll be bringing off the parking lot of the Civic Center. So,
Can you use affluent water?
I'm sorry?
Can you use affluent water from the sewer plant?
You can use a fluid water, but it's piping in there. I mean, you know where the sewer plant is and where the baseball field is. I mean, you have to put it in trucks and load it and get it there. And then, so we can put a fluid water in the river, but if we build something closer to this, it's actually just getting the water there.
Thank you.
It's a hot part. Thank you.
To further back what Ms. Turner said is, we're proposing putting water to the site. At this point, we have not finalized that project either. We're still waiting for all the pieces to come together so we can move forward.
Yeah, there's a plan, if I could, there's a plan A, C, there's a plan B, FEDC, and both entities come together, so
That we
that we
know.
have the funding, that I have enough to do that.
You know,
Thank you. Any other citizen comments? All right, all those in favor of tabling item B? All those opposed? Madam Secretary, did you get the numbers?
401.
Thank you, motion carries.
That should-
Is that over? So we're going back
No,
to.
you need a reconvene.
We need to reconvene.
no reason.
I have a motion by Remy to reconvene. Second by Fred. All those in favor? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. This time I'd like to reestablish our quorum. Members Ray Lambert, Fred Gonzalez, Diane Salazar, Ben Reed, Ramiro Bettis, Gladys Jimenez, and Jay Fuller. This time our meeting will be reconvened. I'm tired. I got you this time, I promise. Okay. Would y'all like to go back into the executive session to discuss this and try to get this wrapped up?
Let's get right to it.
Okay.
Yeah, we need to go ahead and read that. Okay. Read that.
Lord, tonight, the Development Corporation will convene into executive session pursuant to Government Code Section 551.071 to consult with attorney to discuss the agreement between the city and FEDC regarding the park and ball field project. So done.
Where's the transparency?
Huh?
We're just trying to take the monkey off your back.